you. Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the public portion of the March 24th, 2025 Ware Board of Selectmen meeting at 7:12 p.m. We started this evening at 6:30 with a non-public session to conduct interviews for potential employees in the positions within the fire department and land use departments. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't see anyone in the audience that's not here for an agenda item, but I don't want to assume you don't have public comment. So does anyone have public comment?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Bruce Fillmore, Gould Road. At the last meeting, when the subject of the other board committee assignments was being discussed, Selectman Bloom produced a table that he did not share with assignments already filled out. This is not the way the event has happened in the past. This is very disrespectful to all the other board members as selectmen, are not employees of Selectman Bloom. They are all equal board members. Who even knows if Selectman Bloom had assistance in completing this assignment table? This is not something that should have happened in a vacuum as it was presented last week. Thank you.
As I said last week, it was a thought I had, and the board could have made a different decision. But everybody has to start somewhere.
I know I do a lot of prep work beforehand, and I don't share my prep work with everybody at the table, so it's my prep work. I would assume that's how you got to your
I
whatever
had 4 or 5
recommendation you
pages
had.
of notes last week. That was one of the things.
Anything else before we move on to the next agenda item? Helene's here. She requested to be on the agenda tonight to talk about the senior transportation. I believe you have Sylvia and Ben with you tonight. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. This is a follow-up from appearing before you concerning rideshare program, the whole business of transportation. I'm fortunate to be here today with Sylvia Van Oluk and Ben Herbert from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
You got the easy one.
Who will give you some details, but after working on this for almost 2 years, we've had a wonderful breakthrough, and I'll let them take the floor with your permission. Thank you.
Please. Yeah, I think you have to use that one. This board doesn't work. So you have to use that one. That's why it's stretched out.
Up here?
Yeah. And we do have copies if you don't want to, Helene's seen it and, yeah.
Yeah.
They won't be able to see it. They can't see that through the video, but you can certainly put it up there. I'm not telling you you can't, but,
In case we need to point.
okay.
Okay. I'll pull it up then.
The angle of the camera, that just appears as a white screen. There's really nothing that you can see from the video. Yeah. I mean, you can see that there's a little color on there now, but you can't see it.
Full screen mode. Perfect. So this is going to be a brief full presentation, like 5 slides, 6 maybe max, that just kind of gives a little overview of some background on this, how it came to be and what the next steps are. So, of course, as the background, this effort was spearheaded by Helene with the Hand in Hand Senior Center, along with myself and Sylvia with SNHPC. and of course people here in the town of Ware, local champions and community stakeholders. Ware is the only community within our region that has no sort of like regional community transportation service. And when I say my region, this isn't Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission's region. It's the Regional Coordinating Council for Community Transportation. I'm not going to get into the specifics of why there's two different regions. All I got to know is that Ware is one of 20 towns in this region that didn't have any sort of regional service. And of course, seniors and individuals with disabilities in Ware need to get to like grocery stores, medical appointments, and other essential places. But if they can't drive, then how do I get there? And so, of course, we ran this survey about a year ago with 346 respondents here in Ware. And on that survey, we learned that 1 in 5 people in this town knew someone who struggles to get to where they need to go. 90% of respondents supported a volunteer driver program serving Ware, and we had 97 individual respondents who said that they could see themselves volunteering to provide rides for Ware residents. And so after a year after the survey ended, we did a bunch of outreach with surrounding transportation providers, trying to see if they could come in and expand their service into the town. And it was dead end after dead end until finally, maybe like a month and a half ago maybe, we get a call from Community Volunteer Transportation Company, which is a VDP based in the southwest region of New Hampshire, and they've agreed to expand their service into Ware as well as New Boston, starting July 1st, 2025. The remainder of the required funding is $8,000 a year, came from the support of other transportation services within our region, Region 8, and their willingness to cut their own budgets to allow this expansion of a new service into the town of Ware. This includes a $1,000 annual match, which is needed for the next 2 years, so $1,000 per year, for Community Volunteer Transportation Company, also CVTC, to serve Ware. And that $1,000 match will be covered by the Hand in Hand Senior Center through private donations, not the town. And so what's happening next is that we're basically here to request support from the board, not financial support, but more of just like an endorsement of this effort. We'll be working on updating town websites and creating outreach materials for town offices, libraries, and the Hand in Hand Senior Center, as well as any other participating organization. We are currently running a volunteer driver recruitment effort, or not currently, we're about to start a volunteer driver recruitment effort here in Ware, as well as fundraising efforts to collect the private donations for the match, and then we'll be doing outreach to local stakeholders as well as health organizations to increase awareness of this program. And then, of course, coordination between Ware and New Boston stakeholders to maximize program awareness, fundraising, and volunteer opportunities. Any questions?
You specifically highlighted that you're requesting support from the Ware Board of Selectmen. What specifically are you asking for?
Just an endorsement of this initiative that we're taking. We're not asking for any sort of financial support, any sort of political or policy-based support. Just basically saying we're running this thing in Ware. We started this effort. We're bringing in volunteer drivers to help local Ware residents. And we were just hoping that we could have, an endorsement or an approval from the Board of Selectmen about this effort.
I guess I'm a little confused on why you would even need that. I mean,
We don't.
okay, you don't need it, you're
We
just,
don't need it, but it's.
could you, yeah, or
Sorry.
come over here, Sylvia, either one.
Couldn't resist.
That's okay.
Sylvia Von Allock, I'm the Executive Director at Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. I'm going to go back because I think this slide is very important. So, it's true, we don't need the Ware's Board of Selectmen, but any project, any program that's happening in your town, I think it's really important to have your, as Ben so appropriately put it, your endorsement. And so I wanted to show you this slide again because this just gives you an idea of how many different organizations had to come together to make this happen. And Helene, who is your community champion, and there are very few people like Helene, and you're so lucky, Ware is so lucky to have her. But the commission, the Regional Coordinating Council, when you see this, that signifies Manchester Transit, Meals on Wheels, all the different other volunteer driver programs within our region, and they were willing to give up money out of their own budgets so that this could happen. When do you see that happening? But that when we brought this to them, and it was within 3 days that we made this happen, because we got a yes on a Monday from the volunteer driver program, community volunteer transportation company out of Peterborough, that they were willing to say, yes, we will expand our service area into New Boston, we'll expand it into where? I was flabbergasted when I was talking to him on the phone, because we had heard, nope, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, let's talk more, for over a year. And when he said to me on a Monday, yes, I was like, what, really? And Wednesday, these people, a room full of people, service providers, voted yes to support it, voted yes to take money out of their own budgets for this to happen, $8,000. And so also the town of Ware, that is Naomi, of course, and Helene, County of Cheshire, they're the administrators for the Region 5, which is the Peterborough area and Keene area, southwest New Hampshire. They had to vote yes, their board, to accept the money. CVTC, of course, is your new volunteer driver program here and where? DOT, New Hampshire DOT, Department of Transportation, they had to support all of this. And then Keep New Hampshire Moving, that's kind of the mobility managers and this whole effort of coordinating transportation in New Hampshire. So all kinds of things came together. It was one of those rare moments when all the stars aligned and the silver light came down on Ware and said, yes, you have a transportation program, congratulations.
Okay. So what happens after 2 years?
Then we decide, is it working? Is it needed? Was it successful? Did we have a lot of drivers? Did we have a lot of riders? Of course, we need those riders just as much as we need drivers. So after 2 years, well, it'll be like really a year and a half when this will all be discussed again, because this whole discussion happened about 3 weeks ago. And it starts in July. July 1 is the beginning of this, we can call it a trial run, if you will, or a pilot program. But it's a 2-year contract. So we'll see if it's well used, maybe it'll start with 5 riders and 3 drivers, and by December, it'll be double, and then it'll be double again. We don't know, do we? Mm-hmm. So
So you say drivers, are they strictly drivers? Are they driving their own vehicle, or is there a vehicle?
with a volunteer driver program, and this is, I'm pretty sure how it works with CVTC, you volunteer. You decide what rides you're going to provide. So if it's your neighbor, so a neighbor of Helene calls, and Helene will, of course, be a volunteer driver. A neighbor calls CVTC, says, I need a ride to the doctor's office. And then Helene checks in, probably on either a daily or weekly basis. She looks, oh, I know that person, that's my neighbor, I'll give them a ride. And she checks, yes, they arrange it all through CVTC, and it happens.
And insurance,
So their own car, Helene will use her own car, and all the drivers will be vetted. So CVTC, again, Community Volunteer Transportation Company, they will vet the drivers, they organize it, they have, Helene will never need to go to Peterborough. She will go online to their website, she'll be the driver, she'll do all of that. So this group, they vet the drivers, they go through a whole background check that costs something like $35 per person. Which they will cover, and the $1,000 match, that will cover those things.
And they cover
Go ahead.
yeah, please. And they cover insurance, there's an insurance, okay, that goes for that.
And mileage.
And mileage if people if people want it. I mean, I would probably do it without mileage just because I can. But if it's important to somebody to get the mileage, they can
They will get
put in,
paid.
they get paid for that.
So they're pretty much the dispatcher, so somebody's not gonna call you direct, they gotta go through them.
Right, I wanted to speak to that because that we, Ben and I looked at some other ways that other communities do it, and if I was gonna have to be the one who sat there for 4 hours or whatever to do the match, CVTC will have a list of the drivers, they'll vet them, they'll say, good. They'll have a list of the people who need a drive. It's our job, and that's why we really want the town to help me advertise it, if you will, to find the drivers and the people who need it. We find the drivers first and the people who need it. And then they put it together. They put the form together, they explain, you know, how often you have to go on to check, and so on. And from others that we spoke to, sometimes you get a lot of drivers, and then it turns out you have a core that are constantly doing it, and others once every 2 months or something. But they do all that paperwork. That won't fall on me or on Southern New Hampshire Planning or on the town of Ware. Does that clarify anything for
It
you?
does, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think it's great. I've been ashamed for a while that we don't offer something. I grew up in a town of 300 people, counting the dogs and cats, and they've had their own bus for 25 years. Before they had a modern ambulance, they had a way to take people to visit, so.
We couldn't do the bus.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, it's ridiculous that it's taken this, you know, that there wasn't more support till now. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Good job. I know you've been working hard on it.
It's a collaborative effort.
I know, yes.
Without them, it wouldn't happen.
Questions, comments?
Guess from having talked to some folks around town, if you're looking for drivers, I would reach out to the churches in town.
I have, as a matter of fact,
Okay.
spoken with one of the ministers or assistant ministers, and I've spoken to 2 of the ministers. And the library is another source that will work. But it's an exciting time because we've been working on it more than 2 years, and it looked like it was going nowhere. Sorry, I forgot. The survey was a beginning for us, and the town, through the survey, made it clear that the share ride program was something that they were okay with. They weren't very okay with our getting a bus. So, and we'll see if it works. I mean, it all started because some people spoke to me when they heard that I was involved with Hand in Hand, and they said, why don't we have any transportation for Ware? You know, and the community is getting older, and right now, all of you sitting there, you know, you all have your own wheels and your own energy and everything, but the time could come that you don't have family here or neighbors that can help, and we need to have something in place. And this is our attempt to see how it goes.
Anything? Okay. All right. So you said you're just looking for support, so what would that look like to you?
Well, that something is on the website, but,
That's what I was gonna ask. I think we have a page where a lot of the exemption and elderly exemption is. I think that would be the page that we would put something like that on.
that's a big thing. Sylvia can speak. I mean, I'll do as much advertising as I can do. I'll do as much outreach, and if you have people that you know who can help, if you could let me know, and I'll reach out to them as well.
Every town that has something like this, depending on the type of transportation, Ben knows all too well, whether it's like New Boston, for example, they link their transportation for older adults with their Parks Department, Parks and Rec. So Mike Sandoni.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know why I said Sullivan. Anyway, I'm thinking of Monsters, Inc., no doubt. Sorry, bad joke. So, back to, thank you for giggling. So, New Boston's, they advertise their transportation program through their rec department. Some others, they have it like, for example, Goffstown has theirs directly on their front page of their website. So depending on what Ware wants to do, they can have a little tab right in the front, new public transportation, and I don't think CVTC has an issue whether it's with older adults, whether you're disabled, it doesn't matter.
No, they specifically said disabled. They didn't, the parameters, we can put on the parameters. They don't have a parameter.
Yeah, they don't.
I mean, they don't want someone particularly calling up and say, I need to pick up my car from the garage. Get me there. But that would be a little abusive, but if it
Right.
probably, if it had to happen, it would happen. Right?
Anyway, so that's the kind of support we're hoping to get. We're obviously going to work with the library, the churches, with hand in hand, and any other department that's interested, but to have something on your web page, even up front, would be great. Wherever you want to put services available, something like this, it's new, it's exciting, so, and I can vouch that it really helps to have this, where it's visible. So that's the kind of support.
Okay, thank you very much. Any board discussion? No, you said you definitely support.
Yeah, I
that.
think it's great. I feel bad it's taken this long, but it's great. I know Helene's worked really hard on it, so.
Okay.
I think the only thing I'd want, if it does go on the town website, is just make sure that it's clear that it's not like a town service. That it's, like some of the other things that people may use around town, that's in the town, but it's not,
Well, hopefully there'll be a contact, and I can be the contact. And then it'll go from there.
All right, well then I think I would accept a motion that we show our support by linking whatever link you guys have for services from our town's webpage for, do we have like a support page? I know we have a list of like all kinds of
We
things.
can come up with a way of making
Yeah, I don't know what that
yeah.
page is titled, but,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll work with
Okay.
Beth and see if we can brainstorm on how to make it either separate, so it's distinct and not part of, so that it's clear.
all right. So I would accept a motion for showing that support.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Selectman Fillmore. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Selectman Knapp. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say yes or yay.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, motion passes 5-0-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
And become a driver.
You might be surprised who you get.
Thank you again.
Thank you both for coming, or all three of you.
Thank you.
Next up, Beth. We have two items. We wanted to talk about the operating budget. As you know, we had Article 3 not go through, so we're on a default, and talk about Article 4 for the raises for non-union employees. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
No, I was going to, but of course it's not working. Okay, so just a quick run through of the PowerPoint. laptop's not working, so it's lovely. So we're just gonna go over quickly the approved budget that we received, the operating budget, funds to capital reserves and capital improvements. So the 2025 warrant, we received the default budget, as you spoke earlier, warrant article number 3. So our default budget was $8,927,570. The voters approved warrant article 4, which adds to the operating budget $70,130, and the voters approved warrant article 18, body worn cameras, for an additional $8,411. So our approved operating budget is $9,006,111. The voters also approved, I'll just quickly go over these, I know it's not the topic for tonight, but warrant article 12, road reconstruction for $650,000, and $10,000 to go into the employee retirement accrual capital reserve fund. So the voters approved $660,000 to go into the capital reserve funds. The last item that they approved was capital improvements. Warrant article 2, the fire engine for $900,000. Warrant article 19, the cemetery cypre for $35,000. Warrant article 20, the forester contract for $25,000. And warrant article 13 for the Lucas devices for $45,000. So our total for capital improvements was $1,005,000. So our operating budget of $9,006,111 plus the funds to capital reserve funds plus our capital improvements. So our approved budget is $10,671,111. Out of that, 84% of it is the operating budget, 6% was the funds to capital reserves, and 10% was going to capital improvements. Okay, so tonight you want to talk about the operating budget. Obviously, we had the default budget, so we had to go through and see the money that was approved and money that's forecasted, what we plan on spending. So in payroll, the approved payroll budgets was $5,772,953. I forecasted that we'll be spending $5,661,651. So right now, that's a surplus of $111,302. That's due to the vacancies in the first quarter, but I believe in the last 2 weeks, you've filled the full-time truck driver, possibly the full-time building inspector, the full-time building land use admin assistant, and we still have a full-time transfer station attendant and 1 full-time police officer vacant. So with those 2 vacancies, the surplus would continue to increase on payroll, but hopefully we can get those filled. For our contracts, in the operating budget, $964,595 were approved within the operating budget. We need $991,407 to pay all our contracts. So we are in a deficit of $26,812. That's because the auditor's contract still didn't get approved through the voters, custodial services, police dispatch, fire dispatch, and our hauling dispatch. The lawn care that you guys approved last year actually went down. For the discretionary items, $515,899 was approved. Forecasted is $466,469, so I believe we should have a surplus of about $49,430. That is going through our budget, line by line, seeing where we can make additional cuts. Some of them were in the proposed budget, like the ambulance billing was taken out of the proposed budget. Hazardous waste day, that increased. Office equipment, we're trying to not purchase any office equipment this year. Guardrails. And the fire radiant equipment repair should be able to go down because we did purchase all those portables last year with surplus money. So, hoping we have a little surplus in our discretionary items. Our non-discretionary items, what was approved was $1,752,664. What I forecast we need is $1,798,825. So we're short $46,161. We knew this was coming. The general liability property insurance went up, unemployment compensation went up, We have a new tower policy for insurance that we signed in 2024. Wheelabrator went up, and vehicle maintenance and repair is going through the roof. Vehicle fuel is offsetting this. Fire protective clothing is gonna offset this, because again, surplus money, you did a large purchase at year end.
The Wheelabrator didn't,
Now, Wheelabrator is just an agreement, it's not a signed contract.
sure.
Yeah, we don't have a signed contract with Wheelabrator. I don't have a signed contract with Wheelabrator. We have an agreement with them.
I'm sure you're right. I swore we had to, or we were gonna sign that 7-year deal, or we were gonna get kicked off. And it passed one, but I swore that was in it. But I'm sure you're right, but.
Well, I've never seen a contract from Wheelabrator. I mean, I can ask Jason. Did
Yeah.
you sign one when you were?
I don't remember now, I thought one of us did, not you, I thought so. Memory sucks, cause they were right after me, they're like, we need to do this, or you're gonna lose your spot, cause every town wanted to get in with Wheelabrator, because trash went through the roof, and it was a 7-year deal, and like, sucks it's going up, but at least we know we're locked
So
in.
you think you did it in your tenure?
Yes, I do.
Because that would be within 7 years.
Yes, I
Right,
do.
okay.
Yes. I might not have, if it is, I did sign one, but
Okay. Oh, look. I'll reach out to them.
I, sorry, I don't have better information.
Nope, no problem.
Do you have that action?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what I see our payroll forecasted as, again, this was just, for vacancies, I import that they're gonna be filled at May 1st. I'm optimistic that May 1st, they're gonna be, all the vacancies will be filled. If we go further than May 1st, obviously payroll forecasted will be a larger surplus than what we have now. So right now I have $111,302 in surplus for payroll due to vacancies. Contracts, increased by $26,812. Discretionary, surplus of $49,430, and non-discretionary, we're under by $46,161. So as of today, I'm forecasting we're gonna have a surplus of $87,760. And that's tight. So what kind of questions did you have regarding this?
So on page 13,
Yep.
so do I correctly, math-wise, our default, and again, without all the additions and subtractions, the basic default was 8.9 million
Yes,
against the proposed of 9.1.
yes.
So that gave us a delta that we had to figure out how to cover of 221,000.
Yes.
Of which you're saying you've already found 87, so we need to find another 133?
No, 87, that's what our surplus will be. So I found enough in the payroll mostly to come under our default by $87,760.
Under default by
Under.
87?
Yes, we're gonna
Wow.
come in under budget with a surplus of 87.
Right.
Yep. Again,
So-
that's really robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Okay.
But again, it's,
Well, that's,
most of it's due to the
That's great.
vacancies.
um,
Everyone's kind of like, they're not on a freeze, but they're on
right,
minimal services providing.
yeah, definitely nothing. So how do we allocate the budget then, given the fact that, we're now operating on 2-year-old information? So how do you allocate? I know that you can't change the budget.
No.
What's in the budget is the budget, but we have a bottom line, correct?
Yep.
So we can say, and this is a question, it's coming out as a statement, but it's a question. We can say, let's just take the selectman's office as an example. We had $6,600 between the proposed and the default.
Okay.
So taking that $6,600 out, and that is now the selectman's portion, and I guess it's called the selectman's office line
Yeah.
item. So can we track it that way, is my
Yeah,
question.
what I do for the
By every
department heads is, so when they get their budget, I wish I had it on the screen, there's a very thick black line. Any money above that, they can't touch, that's all payroll-related items. So underneath that thick black line is their operating budget, and they can move it around as they need to spend.
No, I'm
But
saying
they can't
remove it
touch,
around.
well,
Like-
not,
Like as an example, another example, 2 years ago, there was a large amount of dollars in the various departments for fuel.
Okay,
And they don't need that this year.
correct.
So can we reallocate that money and say, DPW, that's not your money anymore. It now goes over here,
Yeah,
based on what we put together for the proposed budget.
correct. I've already talked to Jason, his surplus in fuel is gonna go to offset the transfer station because of the wheelabrator and the hauling contract. That's the biggest increases in the transfer station. So I already said, your fuel surplus is gonna go to offset the transfer station deficit. So he already knows that. What we need to do is department heads, when they say I can find it in my budget, it needs to be below that line. It can't be due to vacancies anymore. The vacancies is going to offset other parts of the budget.
Yeah. So can we take the proposed budget that we came up with and decrement that based on the difference between the operating budget that we got approved default and what we actually came up with in December? And then provide every department with a
Yeah,
new budget?
I can show them what I'm forecasting for them, and they gotta stay within that.
Okay.
Because if they go outside,
Line by line.
Line
Yeah,
by line?
line by line.
Well, at least department by department.
yeah. So what I do is I take the default, and then this column just has the year-to-date, just so I know. And then this is what forecasted. Each line is forecasted. So if we go to Jason's and we see the, I have a couple I can hand out, I think. So fuel, what's budgeted due the default was $212,000. What I'm forecasting he's gonna spend is $82,300. So he can't go over that $82,300 because then it's gonna mess up the forecasting for the entire town. So they gotta stay within these, and if they do go over in that, he's gotta take it from something else. So I can give the department heads that. I mean, we sit down and we go through them quite regularly, like, you're running close, you know? You went over in this line, what line are you gonna take it out of? And if you do take it out of that line, that means you can't spend out of that line, because you've already used that fund for something else.
So does that, what you're doing closely track to what the proposed budget is with the appropriate percentage adjustments?
Yes, yes,
To
I used the
propose that
proposed
we
budget,
came in
when it came up with that forecasting column, a lot of it was, what have we spent so far? Because we do spend a lot of our contracts in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and
So
that's
what are our
stable.
contracts, and then what did we propose? What did they say they could use? And then that went in there.
Okay.
Some items I just had to zero out, because we just don't have it. But I'll send that to you shortly, when I close out March. I'll include the forecasting monthly with the financial statements.
Any questions?
I think the question I had was almost exactly that, if I understand your question right.
Try it again, and
Basically-
that way make sure.
Trying to
Well,
keep
and I
it
guess-
with the
I guess,
proposed.
You know, when we're looking at October, November, December of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna put together a budget, like, we spent, I mean, probably 25 hours at this table doing the last one, and I hope we don't do that again.
I hope
But
not.
so can we start with, even though it wasn't approved, can we start with the proposed budget of last year? Roll it back to where we are, you know, the dollar that we did get.
What we have.
And then have that as a baseline for our, you know, our budget prep for next year,
Okay,
at the end of this year.
yep, so we can say this is the Board of Selectmen's proposed budget from last year.
Yep.
This is what they wanted to see last year. Can we fit these numbers kind of into that? Yep.
Yeah, I would probably take that a step further, looking at 2026, is I would really like the 5 people sitting at this table in the next couple weeks, at a minimum, coming up with, what do we expect each department head to come in the fourth quarter in terms of their 2026 budget? Because I think the taxpayers have been very clear that they don't want increases. So, you know, if we put forward another increase in the 2026 vote, I would think that there's a high probability that we're not going to get it. You know, I think the taxpayers over the past 5 years have been very clear, no increases.
Yeah.
You know, one out of the last 5 have passed, and that's it, if I recall correctly.
Hard thing is with those contracts and those non-discretionary items, those are the ones we have to try to get down.
Right.
Those are all already we basically. put
Contracts,
those in anyway,
yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah, those are the hard ones. Those increase your budget no matter what.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But we'll take that into consideration when we're
Yeah.
looking at next year's proposed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah, we did, as we were going through 2025 development last quarter, and in the last quarter of 2024, we came up with two big things that we thought might be able to reduce costs. One, we're looking at energy usage, seeing if there is a change in our electric and heating oil providers, if we could review those for different costs.
That would be.
So I don't know if there's a selectman that wants to help out with that. The second thing we said is we haven't bid insurances in a long time,
No, we're doing that this year.
and is that a
Yeah, I
definite?
have one, I'm setting an appointment with, two, I already have appointments set.
Okay, because I know lots, you know, about a handful of people have said, I would really like to help with that. So, you know, would you
Yeah, send me
take
my
some
contact.
additional
Yeah.
help? Okay.
In terms of energy use, I thought we had asking the Energy Committee to take a look at that.
I don't know if we did, that's why I brought it up again.
Well, in handing that off, I did mention that to Bruce
Yeah,
and to
we
David.
we did talk about that.
You
that-
two did?
The Energy Committee meeting last week.
Oh, okay. Is that something they can help with? I mean, this is distinct and different from the audits that they've been talking about.
No, and I'll make sure that that's relayed to them, that that's,
Okay, good. So can we look to you to make sure that
Yeah.
that gets brought back, anything that they can help us with?
I think the audits are just about done.
Yeah, but those are probably gonna be longer term in terms of savings that we would see.
yeah, it's gonna recommend building improvements and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and it may end up with a cost
Yeah.
associated with it instead of a
Oh, it
reduction
will.
short term.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah.
Initial capital cost to get everything.
But if we have I'm just gonna make up a number, you know, energy rate of 69 cents currently, and somebody can do it for 55, and we switch, that's 15 cents.
From what I heard last week, that market is pretty screwed up right now.
Well, it's just an example. Yeah.
I'm just throwing up numbers.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just saying, in general, that market is pretty much screwed
I
up
don't
right
know
now.
if 69 and 55 are even remotely close to,
Yeah, yeah.
to what they would be, but again, just numbers. Okay, so you would accept some assistance with insurance?
Yeah,
Okay,
health and property.
yep. And what about liability?
Yeah, that's property liability.
That's
yeah.
property as well?
Yeah.
And workers' comp, where does that fall?
Workers' comp is a set percentage based on wages statewide.
Okay,
So
so it's not
depending on
something
if they're
that we bid.
laborers, police, fire, they get a certain percentage. And that's set by the state, so it really doesn't matter who you go through on that.
Any other comments, questions on budget?
Yes, given that we have done some hiring, the forecast 87,760 is gonna be lower than that. Given that it's May 1st, could you send out, I guess given, depending on what decisions are made later in this meeting, could you send out maybe the latest info on,
No, she said that.
I'm sorry, I'm
11
looking
was
at you.
first quarter only.
right, but we're not done with the first quarter, and we have already hired people this quarter. We went over that. We went over the list of people that were hired that are not accounted for.
Yeah, so the only ones that will go into the next quarter will be the officer and the transfer station, and so far the building inspector.
Yeah, but we have hired the truck driver, potentially the building inspector, and the building land use admin assistant, which have been coming out of this quarter.
Nope,
Oh, because their start dates are in the future. But it's still, you said May 1st. They're-
yeah, only for those ones that are still vacant that I know about.
She's
So,
saying that
yeah.
she's forecasting that we would hire those last two positions.
The last two,
By May 1.
yeah, and every day
And
after
that-
May
If we do
1,
by May 1, that's your
Just the last
surplus.
three, I don't know about the inspector.
If it goes further, then the surplus continues to
Correct.
increase.
Okay.
Correct, May 1st is
I had
very
read
optimistic
based on
for
vacancies
officer.
as being, all of the vacancies.
No,
It's the vacancies.
Just the two.
On page 9.
first and last one are
First and
still.
last one only. Okay. Anything else?
No, I mean, I know when you're got default and it wasn't gonna work, and the big three, the highway, police, and fire, all sat down together, and everybody had a vacancy, and we agreed to wait to a certain time. At that time, I think we waited till August, but that was just what the numbers came out to be, to fill those positions, so. I would say maybe Beth has concerns that we're not gonna make it, maybe we sit down with the open positions and see if they can be left open another couple months. It's not ideal for sure, but I know that's how we made up shortages before. It's the
Right
fastest
now,
way to gain money.
right now with the, I'm seeing a surplus still.
Yep,
I do not think even if someone gets in the police department process, if they'll even be in on May 1st. I think their process for hiring is a couple months, maybe 3 months. So even if they have someone they're thinking about, they still have a couple months before they can be hired.
Okay. Anything else we need to know on budgets?
No,
Okay.
no, everyone's been very good. We just got our budget a couple weeks ago, so it's really no spend until we get a budget, so things are quiet.
All right, can we switch gears then to warrant article number 4?
Yeah, I don't know what you need me for regarding this, but ask away.
Well,
Kind of confused.
well, you're the keeper of the money, so your job's important. In the past, we've talked to T.A. Bolton about trying to do an allocation on merit. I guess between, have we done that before? Ever? Do we have any history doing that?
Not in my tenure.
Naomi?
I'm sorry.
Do we have any history doing an allocation based on merit?
We have,
long time ago,
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
when I started,
Oh,
we did.
Yeah, it's been a long time, last few years it's been across, and then there was a few years it wasn't any raise.
6 in a row.
Yeah. Um, not that I'm-
So how would we go about trying to allocate that money? And I think we only have till April 1,
yeah.
is that correct? So we've got a week to figure this out, a week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, if you push it past April 1st, you just usually retro it back
Retroact.
to it. The only thing, and this is just my opinion, is this year it's gonna be hard. I don't even remember what was on the evaluations. It was like 5, 6 months ago that I saw mine. So I don't even remember the questions that were on it. But a lot of the positions don't even have job descriptions. So to evaluate them on doing their job, if they don't have a description, they don't know how to, they're only doing what they're told to do, not what is required of them if they don't have a job description in front of them. So I don't know, based on the evaluations, I mean, do we do a good job? Do we show up on time?
Did you?
No. So it would be kind of hard to evaluate someone or give them a merit if they don't have a job description, if they don't know what is required of them.
Yeah.
So what we used to do too is, and Benji will remember this, that the evaluation that we used to use was about 12 pages long. Remember? They had a subject and then there was a whole, every copy. And they all had a number, like if you got,
Like 0 to 3.
you had 0 to, I think it was 5, or 1 to 5. So if you landed in one of those, you got that number, and then you took all those categories at the end, you added it all up and divided by 12. And then you got a 3.6 or a 4.8, or, you know what I mean, something like that. And that's, I don't think we ever equivalent to a raise, though. That was kind of,
Yeah, when I started it was.
we did.
Yeah.
Because there was very few here, but then a few years ago, the board revamped it to this one document that's two-sided, that doesn't have, I mean, I think I shared it with you all, what ours looks like right
Yeah,
now.
I don't
It's-
think we
That's
saw
what my
it.
argument was when we were talking about it to begin with, that the current evaluation isn't gonna isn't gonna work for a merit raise. That's what my argument was. You need the number system, that's how you do it, if you're gonna do a
I
merit.
thought the way it was described, and I honestly don't remember seeing it, but you said that it's got like a
And I don't remember, I guess.
criteria,
Yeah.
and those could be assigned
You
numbers.
could assign them numbers, yes.
Yeah, for purposes of allocating.
Right, and there was
This.
discussion back in January when we tossed this back and forth where we agreed that maybe it's a 3% and then we would give them the evaluation with the numbers so that they knew next year what we were doing. That was one discussion, and I
It was.
believe it was the night there was 4 and Salem wasn't here. And then we went to the public hearing the next time, heard from everybody, and then we changed back for the reasons, discussed. But we went to a form that has 4 categories, really. If you want to do that, I mean, like, ours is very minimal, to honestly, and I know I've emailed it to all you before.
Yeah, it's-
I didn't bring one downstairs tonight, but I've emailed it to you before, showing you what I had to use, what Mark used, and what Jason used. Because Chief Moore uses his own per his CBA. His is a little bit more in-depth. They do twice a year, all during their collective bargaining. Mark and Jason and I all use the same form, which was the one that I had sent out. And I'd be happy to send it out again, but it was
Yeah, I apologize.
very,
I'm
very
not
scaled.
recalling it.
No, it's very, very scaled down.
I don't remember
I didn't bring one. No, I didn't
what
bring
I
one
was
tonight.
evaluated on.
I'm really a proponent of merit raises. I just don't think we're set up to do it this year, and I kind of agree. It's kind of nice to give the heads up of how this is gonna work moving forward. I'd be happy to, have meetings and work on assigning the evaluation numbers or coming up with yet a different one or something. I think it's kinda, to do it this year, I don't see how it's gonna work very fair, or very good, I guess, but.
I was under the impression that we were gonna try and come up with a merit system we talked about it January, February, and we were gonna try and do that before the vote, and if we didn't, and we didn't, that we would do 3% across the
Yeah,
board.
I remember that conversation.
That's how I remember it, and that we will look to do this next
I
year.
think it's important that we,
Right.
I think it's important we work on that sooner than later, so employees can get a heads up, and
Yeah.
they still get their evaluations and everything, but I am in favor of just give them their percentage and let them know next year we're gonna try to move towards merit. And
Well, we need to do more than try if we're gonna say every year, we're gonna do it next year, right?
I mean-
So we've gotta take some different actions this year
Yeah, I
to
agree.
make it go into effect next year. Would be my suggestion.
They kinda did that at my current work, it hadn't been done, if ever, for a very long time, and, last minute's, we're gonna do merit, well, that's okay, but
On January
Nobody's used
17th,
to
I
that.
forwarded to you guys,
Okay.
because it shows
you remember.
attendance, job knowledge, quality of work, team player, reliability. Those are the only things.
Your numbers are usually set up so if you get a perfect score, it doesn't go over whatever the cap is we have. So if we're gonna approve up to 4% every year, you can't.
And if you get them,
Do you want
7.
me to resend?
if you get them
No,
done
if you-
early
oh,
enough,
okay.
we could probably even, the warrant article could be
Right.
really specific.
Yeah, that's really
Because
how it ought-
2% for one person, 4%
It's
for
really how it
another.
ought to be, actually.
The warrant
That
article
would
would
be,
just not be 4%,
really, yes, that's a good point.
I don't know if is that public knowledge, though?
It would be after it's done.
Okay.
I
Who
don't
got
Do
2, who got 4?
evaluations, would you?
No, as far as the percentage that someone received would be public knowledge after it was done.
Would it?
Only because you
You'd
could
be able
see.
to look at two town reports.
Yeah, you look at two town reports and they made 10,000 and this time they made 10,200.
So, you'd see what their raise was, not necessarily their percentage, would you?
Right, but you could figure it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so moving forward, we're going to go ahead with the 3% for everybody?
I think it's the
At this
fairest
point,
thing to do.
we're going
Yeah,
to do some
but-
research on.
But we've got to take some specific actions
Sure.
to get to what are we gonna do for next year.
Sure, so we'll do some research on what some self-evaluation forms would be to get employee input on how they think they're doing. And we'll get some, what the manager evaluations will look like.
So I just re-forwarded, because Bruce wasn't part of that originally in January, so I just re-forwarded all, it should be back on the top of your emails.
Thank you.
I think we look at the one we have. I don't know if we wanna look at the one we used to have. I agree that was a little too
It was like a
much.
ream of paper by the
The-
time we
It,
did
it it was, and then, we did get a new one at my work that isn't terrible. We might change things, but I'd be happy to share that blank form as a starting point.
Yeah,
I-
why not?
I mean,
would-
I can ask for everybody else's too, through the listserv. Like, it's a little overwhelming at times, but
Well,
I can ask and see what we wanna do.
usually when we've done that in the past, we always say, okay, here's three that look like they're probably close, and then we morphed them. I do
Yeah,
that
because you
on-
wanna look
on a
at
couple different-
population-wise and things like
different
that.
topics.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I'm doing them now, so I'll get a blank one and forward it on to everybody.
Yeah, and if we can get them early enough, we can let the employees see how they're being rated
Sure. That's fair, I think.
on what. Any other questions? Since I was no use for that.
No, it was helpful. I mean, anything else for Beth while we have her?
Well, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you coming in tonight. Okay, I think that brings us to the policy for background checks.
Yeah, I sent you around one this afternoon. I attempted to take what
Thank you,
Salem
Beth.
had talked about in regards to the RSA, and then looking at the question and answer or the legal opinions that were done in 2022. What I tried to do was bold what I added and struck through what was there. I'm not gonna tell you every single word is there, but I tried to not necessarily look at the minors and the seniors, because in the documentation that I was led to with the Q&A spring into the background checks, did list all the volunteers, and I think it was worthwhile, especially when we're putting it into a personnel policy as a part of it. I didn't get into the RSA as far as 91AB, and in all the years we've talked about is you don't start quoting it, because as Salem had pointed out, it is gonna change in June. So if we just put pursuant to, unless you don't wanna do that, and leave it alone as the background check policy for personnel and volunteers, instead of, and I took off working with minors and seniors. I then put the pursuant to RSA, the town's committed to providing a safe and secure for all employees and volunteers, took out the word individuals, especially those that work with or around children or elderly persons, entering the homes of citizens, or collect and manage money prior to a final offer of employment. You can see, I don't have to read it out to you, but that's kind of where I changed the most of it right there. And then again, on a couple of paragraphs, I took out minors and seniors and put individuals. And on the compliance, I added all personnel, and I added the word and volunteers must adhere to the background, because it does talk about volunteers.
Comments on draft two?
I think it looks good.
I guess, normally, historically, I'd say, oh, we got this today. I didn't have enough opportunity to look at it, but given, like Naomi said, it does have the bold additions, the cross-outs. It uses consistent language, the changes like the individuals and the language from the Q&A we'd already talked about. I thought it was easy to track, and, yeah, I agree. I think it's good. And we can put it into almost immediate use.
I agree. Yep.
Yep. The only thing I saw was under compliance. We don't specify anything about ending their volunteer tenure. I don't know if we need to get that specific. We talk about termination of employment or contract, but there's not really
I see.
a contract per
No.
se with a volunteer. So maybe add termination of their volunteer services, something like that.
Take out the word or, comma, contract, and what did you say?
Um,
Volunteer services?
Volunteer services or,
May result in disciplinary up to and including termination of employment, contract, or volunteer services?
anybody object
Be
to that?
simple enough.
No, it's good. It's fine.
Okay.
Good catch.
Are we good with it then as written,
Yes.
with that one mod?
As modified.
Thank you. Okay. Do we want a motion then to put that into the personnel policy and into the volunteer form? Is that what you need?
Yeah.
Okay. So, motion to accept draft 2 with one modification to the compliance section for inclusion in the personnel policy and into the volunteer form. Would anyone like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Knapp, seconded by Selectman Bloom. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say yes or yay? Yes?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passes 5-0-0.
In front of you, we'll move on to the next item in
So,
front of.
just,
sorry.
how long will that take to get into the personnel policy and onto the volunteer form?
I mean, the personnel policy, I still have hanging out there, the fire department, that we have to talk about where you want it. Their policies integrated with our policies made it, I would say terribly clunky, and I highlighted it in yellow for you, and I just,
Yeah, it was clunky.
I gotta send verse one now. Because what we're gonna do, I think, we've always had a hearing on the changes. I don't think you have to in this case, because you're integrating fire policy into our policy. Part of me has got a second thought where I tried to place it into the vacations, the sick, and all of their others. They're a little bit different than we are, and I just didn't know if we added it for fire employees and kind of take it out of the clunkiness, make a separate section for fire department employees and include theirs on top of. Because if you look at it, you'll know what I mean, if you remember it.
Yeah, I think I do.
Because I took and yellowed and added the volunteer, under their vacation, we have ours, and then in yellow, I added the fire department, because I wrote, if you're fire department, this is yours. Kind of, it just made it, I didn't like the flow. It doesn't look very nice. I just don't know if I pull that back out.
Yeah, I'm
Make
just,
it just
I'm
fire
just
department.
concerned that they might not look to find the fire section. You know, so that's why we talked about having it
Yeah.
all in the topic by topic.
And it's there, but and maybe it needs to flow a little better, and I just need to trim some down, but they're 42 hours, where we're 40.
Right.
There's a lot of different things about the fire service than we are. I can get it into the volunteer form very shortly. I know you do have on the list of my appointments, the volunteers have signed the old form already. That's the only thing.
Right, but they can sign the new one when they come.
True, yep. Because I can put that in immediately. The personnel policy, I can add it to it, but it just looks a little, I don't like how the fire department flows, but it just looks terribly. Because their policy for accruing is different, their vacation time is different, their hours of work is different, because they're 42.
Do we want, just from the volunteer standpoint, do we want the volunteers to sign a new form when they come? I'm assuming we're doing that next week.
Yeah, it's not gonna screw anything up.
They're gonna be here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, all the great appointees and the no appointees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have those.
Yeah, we,
Because a lot of them didn't sign ethics forms either, which I'm gonna have to, they just signed the volunteer form, because typically we ask even on reappointments to do both.
yeah, and then everybody that's not up for reappointment would have to be sent out to them
Yeah.
and get them to sign it. But that's, everybody has town emails now, so that shouldn't be a difficult thing. Good with that? And when do you guys want to look at the fire integration again, so that we can get the personnel policy updated? We do have a couple things from Jason for next week as well that would go in
Jason moved to April,
April.
yeah. April 7th.
Was he got April 7th?
Yeah, he took April 7th for the on-call and those things. I mean, we've got time on the, you get 14th, you only have two things, 21st, because I know the 28th is a no.
So do you want to look at that then, do Jason's, and then immediately talk about
Do
the
the
rest of
7th,
them?
and then the 14th, we can do the personnel policy. He's got one that'll go in there.
Yeah, I knew there was something
Yeah.
that gets added in.
The others are not to do with personnel per se.
Right. Okay. Everybody good with that? We can move on? Yep, all right.
So I handed, this is our list of tax deeded property, I highlighted it for you. We do have two that, we are the owners of, but they're in either parks, you know, they're in a mobile home park, or they're in the, all seasons, and what we've done in the past, is we actually deeded back to the association with a clause that they wouldn't charge us for the rent, because typically we're supposed to be paying lot rent.
Yeah, and I assume we haven't been.
And we have not been, but I think there was an agreement signed up, we did it 106, I think, 106 was the last one, at Buckley Road that we did it with, as we deeded it, but there was an understanding that we would deed it back to them, and there would be nothing that we owe. It would,
Have you had any conversations with them? Are they
with them, they
amenable
want
to that again?
51, yeah.
Okay.
In the park, South Ware Mobile Home Park, I've not had that discussion, but I don't mind having that, because they'd like to clean it up as well.
I'm sure they would. I mean, it's been
So
sitting there
those
for a
two
while.
colored orange ones would be ones that I would recommend working on, and disposing it back to them would be taxable, and then put it back on the record. The ones in pink, you're gonna see, we have, 6. There's 6 pieces in pink that you could technically look at auctioning.
And why not all the rest that aren't in orange?
Well, I guess 223, I'm gonna look at your second number down, it's public information. 223 Buzzell Hill Road is the piece of property that is right next to where they're gonna be doing the bridge. So we've always kept that and hang on to it so they can stage their equipment there for the new bridge. After we're done, maybe we can do it. But we took that, it's got a dilapidated house. And it would just be easier for us to be able to stage them there versus with the, you know, when they get rolling on this project, is to put the contractor trailer there. It's not in the road. That's why we hung on to that. The other two, you can try to, the next two are on a paper subdivision, I'll call it. The road doesn't go there. There's many people that have lots on this road that doesn't go there, but these two people didn't pay them. You could put them out there, but I can't imagine if the road doesn't go there, no one's gonna wanna buy them.
That's up off unmaintained part of Mountain Road, right?
Yes, it's up off of, what is it, Evan Page? It doesn't exist either. Goes to the end of Bogue,
Yeah.
and then Evan Page to Marsh Hill, Marsh Ridge. Same, it was a Husky subdivision done in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I mean, you never can do anything with them, but there might be,
There might be somebody interested in, just having a place to go out and do
Okay.
stuff.
I mean, I only did it because I just
Yeah.
didn't know that, we
I guess
certainly.
we'd have to ask the question if we go to auction or sealed bid or whatever we do,
Mm-hmm.
if in the project the property doesn't sell, is it no charge?
Yeah, that's one question, yeah, you're right. The Daniels Road one is .13, and it's deeded access to the lake, and I've always been advised that we want to stay away from playing around with the lake. But I don't know what .13 acres you could do anything with anyway.
A neighbor might want it.
And that's Twin Bridge is the next one, it's .48 acres, but it's the intersection. I don't think we wanna, I don't even know, it's a tiny little parcel.
Piece on the right.
It's, I think it's down by the pit, where Daniels' pit was.
The little pit,
Yeah, that little area. Old Town Road, that's .057. It's a right of way to water. It's not even buildable. I'm sorry, I should have, the Mount William Pond, that's obviously something that we would, I don't know why I didn't highlight that one, sorry. Between the two oranges, that's a definite 19.5 acres.
Mhm.
And then the one.
You want that one to be
That would be going
pink?
to, yeah, I don't bring that.
Okay.
And then Daniels Road again, Daniels Lake is what it says on the card, .10 acres. I mean, you could put them all, but like you raise a very good question, is if they don't sell, is there a fee? I would just suggest, just until the bridge is done, that you hang on to 223 Buzzell Hill.
That makes sense to me. I think we talked about that last time we talked about this.
Yeah.
And we all thought that was a good idea, so. Any difference of opinion, Bruce?
No, no.
You all still good with that?
Good.
All right.
Trailer, lay down yard, whatever, wanna work on the
Yeah,
bridge.
whatever the trailer, and there's equipment, there's gonna be bridge stuff, there's gonna be materials.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of,
I don't think that'd be I mean, different board can discuss it another year, but I don't think that'd be a terrible thing to
Hang on
just
to.
hang on to. I mean, hopefully none of us are making decisions next time the bridge needs to be done, but it'll always be, always be a piece of land for that area where there's always something that some sort of maintenance could be done on, and to have to deal with a neighbor when we could have kept it for that, seems foolish to me, but.
Could always, put it in the deed, like sell it and say, but the town needs access every,
Yeah.
Then we'd fix it. I mean, I don't know, it'll be discussion after I'm gone, I think it would be wise
Yeah,
to keep
so,
it, but.
so I guess tonight's discussion was more, here's your list. Do you want to entertain talking, I only know of two people out there that do the auctions, one of which I think, Janice, you sat through it with me, is, there was one company, and then there's a second one that we used prior to this, no
yeah,
one's
the
here.
two I found recently were JSJ Auctions, and the second one was NH Tax Deed and Property Auctions.
Those are the two.
We do have other options. We could, in fact, go through a sealed bid. I think we talked about this before. And sealed bid, there's a lot more activity that the town has to take on and do. A lot more research, a lot more liability, a lot more risk, a lot more paperwork, a lot more transactions. And
Town council gets
we,
involved.
we do nothing that generates more revenue for us.
Right, I was just gonna say, there's
Right.
always the possibility that you're gonna get less.
Yes.
You could have somebody that really wants it and wants to throw a number, make sure they get it, but.
Right, but that doesn't generate any more revenue for us.
Right.
All we get is the tax bill and the expenses that we generated to sell the property.
Right.
We get no windfall profit, if you will. All
Exactly.
that goes back to the homeowner originally, or heirs, and all that has to be investigated as well.
Yes.
Which takes time, effort, and more than likely, in some cases, court activity. So if we go to an auction house, that's a turnkey auction house like these two are,
Right.
they take care of all that for us and take their expenses out of the proceeds.
And then whatever's left goes back, yes.
Right.
And they take care of all that.
Right.
But I mean, we've sat through them before. In 2019, we did it, and it was very simple, because the board does have to go to the auction for the mere fact that there's a minimum that you'll accept, which is your tax money. And then we had to make a decision on a couple of them, whether they would start lower and accept lower. So that's why you're there, because you're noticed as a meeting, and then they conduct their auction, and if there's a question, they can time out, and then we could meet. And we did that before. But do you want to, I think they're both similar to the same, but I don't structurally, I don't know if you want either one or both
Yeah.
to come in and give you a pitch.
I got the impression that one of them contracts out some of the legal services, and the other one has that in-house.
Okay.
That's just an impression, I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, I just didn't know if you wanted to.
They both do it, it's
Yeah.
just, they then have to go get somebody else to do it.
Right,
Versus
and-
the other one just turns around and does it at his desk and they're done.
Yeah, and would you be interested in listening to both of them? There's only two, it's not like there's 10.
Yeah, it's up to you.
At
guys.
another time, what they would do?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Up to you guys.
That sounds fine.
Just add it?
And I don't know about the right-of-ways, I'd put the Marsh Ridge Road, that's kinda, I've actually
Oh.
been up there, that's kind of a neat.
If they're clear right away, the butters might wanna buy them.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there is you can drive there is a old road.
On
punch
Marshwood
there.
Road?
Yeah, there's,
Never
No, I've
heard
been
of
out there, I actually designed a couple septic systems out there, for people that didn't know any better.
it. Yeah, I don't,
yeah. And then on the two that are in orange, definitely see if the campground will take them for waiver of
with an
all.
agreement, yeah, okay. All right, so I'm trying to plan my calendar out. 21st, because I just added the personnel amendments to the 14th. You've got hiring of Chase Park, and you've got Beth with the first quarter of financials again. So that's 2 policy amendments for personnel is 3. Nothing is on the 21st.
Work for everybody?
yep.
Right.
Everybody okay with that approach?
Yep.
We're doing the auction?
Yes.
Okay, great. And do you have any idea, I know that Buzzell Hill wouldn't be included in this, but, and the two that are in orange, probably the answer is 0, but do you have any idea what kind of tax revenue this
I
would put
can-
back onto the
Yeah,
rolls?
No, I can do that. So you need to know for the, and it will take time, so the 21st works.
Right.
So you need to know the taxes.
Yeah, just from a standpoint of, this is gonna add, if successful, this is gonna add
Right.
$1,000 to our revenue,
Okay,
you know, and whatever that number is.
yeah. Yeah, because they each have, when we converted it to tax exempt, there's an amount. And then you just take from when we took it, which you have the years here, then you bring it forward the amount. Yeah, okay, I can do that. For each property except for the Buzzell Hill.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on that? Good, thank you for the list. I think that brings us down to the consent agenda. If I'm following along properly. There it is. The agenda has 5, we're only gonna approve 4 this evening, just so everybody at home knows. They're the gravel, 25-471-02E for lot number 405060. Elder Day exemption, I believe it's an exemption, is that the correct term? For taxpayer B?
Taxpayer B. I think they didn't put the name there for a reason.
Right.
Is
yeah.
it in, it's gotta be in your box.
It is in our box.
Okay,
And it has a sticky note on it that says this will be referred to as taxpayer B.
okay.
Veteran tax credit for 108-18 and 412-144. And yield tax number 24-47107T for tax map 406011. All right. And that brings us then to administrator's report.
I put it in front of you all, and we went down through all of them. Tax deeding we'll schedule for the 21st. Mildred Hall, I believe I got what you wanted.
Really?
So Mildred Hall, I did some research, and if you want, March 5th of 2004, we received the last will and testament of Mildred Hall that stated that all of the residue and remainder of her property of all kinds, whether real, personal, or mixed. And it goes down through, and it says, they direct the selectmen of the town to appoint a committee of 3 members of the Historical Society to recommend to the selectmen such projects as will improve and assist the town of Ware and determine what amount of this bequest is to be used for the purchase. The second part of that says, the funds shall be designated as the Charles and Ethel Eastman Fund. I request that a suitable memorial be designated and constructed to honor my parents. That was Article 16 of the will. The will looked like this, just so you know. Article 16. And then that was March of 2004. In September 22nd of 2004, the Historical Society had a special board meeting where they discussed the request of the Mildred Hall will. They discussed membership, they had a preliminary plan to establish a mechanism to deal with the request. They established credibility to bring to the society's membership and deal with the communication. The president and vice president then proceeded to take a proposal to the Board of Selectmen at their next meeting. That's what their minutes said. And then I'm going to fast forward now to October 3rd of 2005. On Board of Selectmen minutes, page 2, item number 3, Mr. Kirk, the vice president of the Historical Society, distributed minutes of the special meeting to the board. The Historical Society brought forth names of people interested in serving per the will. The Historical Society would like the board to appoint 3 members and 3 alternates to serve on the committee. At the end of the discussion, the minutes indicated that Mr. Kirk would write up a proposal for the next meeting with the final members. October 6th, he went back to the to the board of the Historical Society. And they drafted a motion to be made by the selectmen to establish an advisory committee under 16. November 7th follows selectmen's minutes, and they approved it as following: 3 members, Betty Straw, Ruth Jones, Terry Knowles, at 5, 4, 3-year terms respectively. 3 alternates, Rad Betts, Malcolm, and Sherry, were again 5, 4, and 3 terms respectively. So in 2005, the advisory committee was as such: Betty Straw with a 5-year term, Ruth Jones as a 4-year term, Terry Knowles as a 3-year term, all members. Alternate, Rad Betts had a 5-year, Malcolm Wright had a 4-year, Sherry had a 3-year. Then I don't have a stitch of minutes until 2007. In 2007, there was 4 meetings. I have 4 in 7, 5 in 2008, 3 in 2009, 12 in 2010, 5 in 11, 4 in 12, 3 in 13, 1 in 14, 2 in 15, 1 in 16, we skip 17, we go 1 in 18, and then we go to 4 in 19, we skip 20, obviously pandemic was then. 21, we had 2, 23, we had 1, and 24, we skipped 22. 24, we had 2.
And you're
Those are the
talking
only
about
those are the sets of minutes that I have.
from the Eastman or from the
This is
Historical
the
Society?
Mildred Hall
Mildred Hall.
Advisory. Those are the only minutes that I have. I have not read them all, but I can go back next and take this year. So looking at it, Betty Straw would have been appointed in 2005. She would have expired in 10, so I'd have to find minutes in 10 to give her to the next spot. And then Ruth Jones the same. Ruth is deceased, but I'd have to go to the 10 minutes, I guess, in the 10.
Well, yeah, you would actually need to start at 2008 because there were
2008,
three-year
which
terms.
2008 there was, how many
That would have been
sets?
Terry and Sherry.
2008, there was 5 sets of minutes I could pick through. And they're,
But that would-
February
that-
20th, 7/31, 9/16, 9/18, 11/14, those are the dates.
Yeah. But the appointments might not have been
The
in
appointments were
Mildred Hall.
always
They would
supposed to
need
be
in
here.
Here,
They always have to be here.
right.
Weeding it out to figure out who's 5, who's 4, who's 3 is gonna take more digging into those minutes.
Right, well,
But the
maybe-
appointment is here. I know if you look at the website, there is 6 people on there, there's 3 and 3. Doesn't have any terms. There's 3 people with members and there's 3 alternates. But I don't have a stitch of terms other than going back to 2005, pulling each one forward a minute at a time, a set of minutes at a time. But I think your ultimate question was, it's supposed to be done here. Which is evidence from the will, the historical special meeting, the Board of Selectmen minutes, and they finalized it on November 7th, 2005.
And the will, does it say the 5 years?
No, that was something,
That was
the
the
will,
proposal that
the will, and
Mr.
I,
Kirk put together?
yeah, that was a proposal. The will just basically, it says, "I direct the selectmen of the town appoint a committee of 3 members of the Historical Society to recommend to the selectmen such projects that will improve and assist the town aware." So when it went back to the Historical Society, they had a discussion as to expanding it to 3 and 3. And I have those minutes here too. Special board meeting, September 22, 2004. The purpose was to discuss the request of the Mildred Hall.
Okay. And they, in the Mildred Hall Advisory Committee proposes 3 to 5 year term limits.
Yes, they
Okay.
they did those.
Okay, got it.
And then the actual minutes of the November 2005 minutes said exactly 3 members, and then they give their terms respectively. So I have to say Betty's 5, this one's 4, this one's 3.
Well, I think irrespective of answering Article 25 from last year, we need to figure out who is supposed to be on it and when their terms expired or got renewed, and if there's any action for us to reappoint people. I'm suspecting that there might be, but I could be wrong.
So then it's 2008, 2009, 2010 minutes, and hopefully there's something.
Yeah, well, then it's now 2025, so.
Well, no, I'm just saying, and now there's something there without reading every single set to see when they put people on. I didn't answer your question?
It did answer my Article 25 question, because my Article 25 question is there term limits on the
Yes.
Mildred Hall Advisory, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, and the selectmen appoint.
And the selectmen appoint them.
Correct.
Now, we have to figure out the current state, but it answers 25, I believe.
So,
Okay.
I think it'd be easier to just go back in time through minutes and find out when the last time anybody was appointed. Never mind trying to add them all up from 2020.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
I
we
know.
might not be able to get
yeah,
that level of
I do
fidelity.
know that, I believe, I don't remember off the top of my head, I think Betty's still on, Sherry's still on. And I thought Rad was, but I'm not sure. I think Rad is on. Terry Knowles, I think, is off now, but the website tells you the 3 and 3, because I know Rhonda Gregg is on. I think Helene's on. So Rhonda, Helene, and Rad are alternates.
I remember Rhonda and Sherry from when we were talking about the acceptance of the
Correct.
stuff for Center Square.
I think we should just ask them. Please provide the minutes when the last time people were appointed.
Well, the chair is Betty.
if we're the appointing authority, then it's on us.
We should have it. Right?
We have the minutes, it's just, gotta read through them.
Okay. All right, so I think now we can separate these two things. We've got the answer for 25 and figure out what we need to do with appointments for Mildred Hall going forward, if anything.
Oh, so, Betty's the chair, Sherry's the vice chair, Rhonda is secretary, Rad Betts, Terry Knowles, and Helene Kirk
Alternates.
are alternates, that's what it says.
Okay. I don't know, maybe that's not current, I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah. I think it might be, only from the last 2 things that we did, I remember those names, but. Okay, so now we need to figure out terms. And we're gonna see Terry next week anyway, and I'll see if I can. know Ruth is no longer. but- Sorry, I just got sidetracked with that. That was on my list, so, we're now gonna break it up, because I believe on my list still is to get those uploaded on the website. That's on the backside, Mildred Hall minutes.
Okay.
I sent you legal bills, I sent you also today the building permits. I did, just a reminder, tomorrow night, we're meeting at 7 o'clock upstairs.
There's 3 meetings in this building tomorrow. Which room are we in?
I was putting us in conservation,
Okay.
and the Parks and Rec were gonna be outside of my door because they were doing 1s and 2s as the staff.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna unlock that door, but we would be across in the other room, because there's more of us than them. Because we have 2 committees. Yep. And then trustees of trust funds, we have that trust training and that, on next week. Chief Moore had asked me if he could have a non-public session under A and C. He also wants to get on under department heads to discuss the cruiser and what he's gonna do now that it didn't pass. He's got an updated repair bill on the other, so he wants some guidance. And then I was going to, I also gave you the list of everybody that needs to be appointed or reappointed, so I didn't add much more to the agenda than that, other than East Road Hayfield decision possibly, with a question mark. Standby call and all of Jason's were going to be moved to the 7th, and James sent us the Parks and Rec, and I thought we could do, while we're doing policy, we could look at the bylaws for the Park and Rec. I do, part of, that's not listed is, I don't know what we're gonna do with plans for replacing a building maintenance or handyman. And I think we have only like 2 hours a month in the default, so not a high priority at the moment, I guess. Right to know training, I did send the link to the video over to town council. I'm just waiting for an update.
Okay.
Cable is meeting tomorrow night as well, and hopefully I'll have an answer, and I was gonna have them come in about the change to their bylaws and stuff.
Yeah, and we were also gonna ask them if they wanted any, help from a selectman standpoint and, just
Okay.
liaison kind of
Yeah, I
help.
can ask Andrew to ask that tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then the following week, and the same time on Umbro, we have I did find under G is the
Okay. Thank you.
cyber. And then on the 14th, Chase Park, we're hiring Beth, and then I added the personnel policy amendments, and then we have the 21st back with tax deeding. Below food pantry, I know you're working on the hold
Yeah,
harmless.
he did not get me anything last week.
Okay.
They did reach out, I think Thursday, and asked for the draft of the lease. You gave me the latest copy. I sent that over to them, so I know they're working on it, but
Okay.
they did not get it to me
Yep.
last week.
And we also learned last week, I'm gonna get it to the planning board, the one about the ice cream and the parking, and let them decide. I don't think nothing else I've added to the back of this or changed it. As I said, I did move the Mildred Hall forward, but I did keep, because I do have to upload the, those minutes that are there.
Couple of the handyman things,
Yeah?
probably not for at least 6 months, but you might, that one candidate, if we were to go with him, might be able to talk him into fixing a light switch cover once in a while. If we hired a building inspector for 2 hours a month.
Well, it's just all that's in the default.
I know, I'm just
you know,
saying,
Yeah.
I know the one person we interviewed months ago, he wanted extra pay, but highway always used to do it around here. Yeah.
Yeah. So this list for next week on the committee appointments,
Yep.
do
the
we know
only
what they're
thing-
asking for in terms of, some of them have expirations
Yeah, well,
and
the only
some
thing I
don't?
needed to reach out to, and what I put on here was the exclusive list.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3 have already been to the planning board and the Parks and Rec. And the terms to the right of that, which is 3 years, 1 year, 1 year, came from the boards.
Okay,
Then the reappointments, Cable is going to ask Stephen tomorrow night.
okay.
The only thing I had a question on, the cemetery advisory committee, we left for 1 year. Do we bring them back in? Because I have not notified them.
Well, we originally appointed
For a year.
them for 1 year because we wanted to make the decision whether or not we were gonna try and go back to a elected set of trustees. And we decided that we wanted to get more progress under our belt before we tried to do that. And so we said at least 1 more year, and then it would still be 1 more year because it's a year after the vote
right.
that takes effect. So my recommendation would be to re-up them for at least 2 years.
Okay, my
But-
question is, I have not given them any
Right,
forms. Okay,
right.
sorry.
So I was gonna get to that. So recommend be free for at least 2 years, and unless you guys wanna talk to them, I don't need to. I've worked very closely with them, so, you know, I'm okay with all of them. And we still are looking for alternates if anybody else wants to join that committee, so nobody else has come forward since, I think that was, August, September timeframe that we put that committee together.
So that would be a simple motion, you don't want to see them?
That's my thought on those 3 specifically, but we probably should go through the whole list and talk about whether or not we want reappointments to come in or not.
In the
For year-
bottom,
For years
just,
it wasn't done.
Right.
years,
Last year, we talked to everybody because
Right, right.
we,
But
you know,
for-
we hardly knew anybody.
Yeah, but for years prior, it hadn't been done. So I mean, it's not unusual to do it that way.
Right. The other
your new ones you
question-
always brought in,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other question is, planning board, I'm assuming that your either term was up or you've stepped down off planning board.
My term was up.
Okay, so
So,
then they have a full position open.
Right.
Not just an alternate, so,
Right,
Would
but they
they-
usually pick from within,
right.
yeah.
So they would need to then change somebody over from full to alternate. So is that person on the list?
Nope. 'Cause I don't know what their makeup is gonna look like until they're meeting Thursday night, because there is one that's still got an expiration that hasn't made up his mind if he's going to or not.
Okay.
I have the zoning board. The bottom 2 are just letter only because you guys only appointed 1 year. I have the gentleman for the zoning board, and their next meeting is the April 1st. Danny, Jean on the planning board, I'm just waiting on 1 more. But I don't know, they're meeting Thursday, so I'm not sure what their makeup is gonna look like. As far as who's gonna fill the vice chair spot. Because they're gonna elevate probably the senior most, the suggestion would be the senior most alternate.
Yeah, well, it could be somebody else wants it and that senior most person does not, so it's, could go.
But I won't know that until
Right.
the 27th.
Okay.
And then Parks and Rec has already handled theirs. You got 2 up above and 2 in the middle. Energy Commission, they have all these alternates that we only appointed for 1 year, which didn't make sense to me.
Because they hadn't done their bylaws.
Right,
They-
and I
they and
think they're
Park
still,
were-
so that was a question Bruce asked me today, we haven't looked at or reviewed their bylaws. Do I skip on them for now, until we finish their bylaws?
How close are they?
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
I would say
So that
then maybe
we can hold off on them?
I mean, a meeting or 2, but not 3 or 4
Not
months.
till
Yeah,
November.
you're right.
No, because they're still ironing those out.
Okay with that?
And they're gonna meet again next month.
Okay, well,
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And then Conservation, those 2, I already have the paperwork.
Okay, so back to the question on the reappointments, do we want people to come in again?
No, we're all set.
You say no?
Yeah.
No.
I was only thinking maybe for Parks and Rec, because we are also doing their brand-new bylaws, but it's not really relevant.
Your reappointment you've seen, your new ones you'll interview, correct?
Correct, right.
Right, and those are at the top.
Yep, but I was also thinking about having the Kyle and Matt come in just because they're 3-year, but we don't have to.
It's gonna be a long night if you put them all in there.
That's another consideration, yes. I'm doing it for Benji.
Yes. Appreciate
Gee,
that.
thanks, huh?
Yeah. No, I think that would just take up time. We could do something else productive.
That's-
Yeah, I do think it should be a every few years kind of thing, though.
Yeah, we could decide next year we want to bring them in. I think it's always our prerogative to talk to people.
Yeah.
So there's some I don't have ethics, and there's some, we just talked about changing the volunteer form. Once I do, I'll send it out to them. Is that how you want to handle it if you're not going to see them?
Mhm.
And then, just trying to figure it out, she needs a form, right? So once, no, not a reappointment. Swearing in, I'm just thinking the new guys do. Just trying to think of the form she always asks me for you guys to swear them in. Do I
Well,
send
it's
them,
also
do I
just-
send them directly to her, to Pam for being sworn in for 3 more years?
Yeah, where they can come here and we can do it, or we can go to their meeting or something. You know, I'm flexible.
Well, I mean, if you just say, hey, I can type them for her, and they could stop in there, Wednesday night might be convenient for some people
Right. Or,
versus a work.
yeah, or if there's a lot of them, I mean, one of us can go to their meetings. I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost 100% on a board anyway, so
Okay.
committee, commission, we could do it as part of that meeting.
Yeah, we could do that too, because their ex officios are there, so.
Right.
Okay.
Any
So is
objection
it
to that?
consensus?
Fine.
But, yeah, either way, I think a lot of them will just soon come in here and do it next door, I think. That's what most of them like to do.
Yeah,
can
I
work
mean,
with-
I'd just give them the option.
Right. Yeah, as long as they get sworn in,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't think we have a preference
And I
for
can
how it
work
gets
with
I
handled.
guess,
Right.
I mean,
If they
maybe
don't-
to
if
make
they
it
don't-
easy is bring your paperwork to the next meeting, and then the ex officio can either confirm that the town clerk did it, or do it at the meeting.
I'll work with Pam on that. I don't want to add any more to her. She's by herself right now, so.
Okay.
And I can chase the paperwork for those that I don't have. What am I missing?
Yeah, and we did decide to hold off on Energy Commission reappointments for a few more meetings until we look at their bylaws.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of stuff.
All right, I think that's all I have for you. I have a question, but it'll be, I'll ask you under correspondence question.
Okay. All right.
I don't know why I don't have my notes.
So, Article 25,
Yes.
we now have the answer on Mildred Hall. So, do you guys want to talk about that during a meeting? Do you want to hold a public hearing? Do you just want to publish it? What do you want to do with it? Obviously, I have to integrate the 25 into the final draft of the report, but how do you want to handle that? If you recall, town council said, you know, you can do whatever you want. You know, you could have a public comment on it, you could not have a public comment on it, you could just publish the report, you could sit here and talk about it. I think those were the general options they gave us, but,
You could add it to the matrix and then put it on your next agenda and discuss it, and anybody who wants to, they could come.
yeah, that's what I'm asking, what do you guys want to do?
Doesn't matter to me.
I'd be satisfied with just publishing it.
Yeah, we spent, I thought, enough time talking about
We
it already,
spent 2 meetings talking about it in detail.
with the exception of this one line item,
Yeah.
and if you can fill it in and send it to us, then maybe we have the opportunity to object before it gets published.
Yep.
Like, allow for a meeting. But my guess is we publish it.
So I'll fill in the matrix and the draft of the report, give you a final version, send it to all, and at the next meeting, you can tell me whether or not you have any changes to that. And then we can agree that we're gonna publish it or make changes. Okay? So we'll need a few minutes on the agenda next week, 3:31. I will be able to get those out to you tomorrow or Wednesday. So you'll have a couple days to look at it. Okay, I appreciate you indulging me on that question now. All right, that brings us to manifests. I'd like to motion to order the treasurer to sign the payroll and accounts payable checks dated March 27th, 2025, as included in the following manifests. Payroll manifest, $98,594.96. And accounts payable manifest, $245,850.45, for a total of $344,445.41. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Selectman Bloom. Any discussion? All in favor, say yes or yay.
Yes.
Yes. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? I believe I heard 5. Motion passes 500.
For some reason, I don't have my minutes.
Okay, minutes from March 17th.
I didn't bring them down, but
Had no changes.
I just had a couple of really minor tweaks. James, you always have a list. You want to start?
I don't always have a list, and
No.
I don't have one now.
No? So you're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Bruce, I don't yet know your cadence for reviewing minutes. Do you?
I looked at them, that was
Okay.
okay with
All
that.
right. Line 62, spelling of my last name is incorrect.
still,
It's just occasionally. It's right in other places.
Two
Yeah.
Ts?
1 T is
Oh.
the way you spell it.
Yeah, I
This
know,
one had
yeah,
2, yeah. But in other places, it had 1. And then line 85, we agreed to meet approximately 2 times a month, not from Memorial Day to Labor Day, but May to September.
okay.
That's it. Any other changes?
Make a motion to approve the March 17th minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Moved by Selectman Fillmore, seconded by Selectman Knapp. Yeah, all in favor, say yes or yay. Yes?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passes 500. I do have a set of non-public minutes from March 17th that will also need to be approved. I will bring those next week.
To go with these,
Yeah.
the ones you listed off,
This is, in addition, I think those are,
next week?
yeah,
These are the ones that you listed.
yep. But I also have one for
Okay,
March
So we'll do
17th.
them next week.
Yeah. It will need a brief non-public, but we don't have to do minutes for that because it's just reviewing minutes,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Brief non-public to look at minutes. So add March 17th to the list, but I have those.
Mm-hmm.
You do not.
Okay.
Okay. Any selectmen committee updates?
Just that park, we're seeing some turnover. Denise's chair is stepping down. For that, we are still looking for a park director to assist with everything that's going on there.
There's been no bites.
Yes, from my 1 year in park, observing the last year, it can't really be understated how much Denise was doing. So that will also leave some big shoes to fill.
And she was doing a tremendous work doing the director's position as well for the last few months.
It's too bad.
But we did pick up 2 more members that, as we saw with the new appointees. Like I said, the bylaws have been handed out or have been emailed, so those should contain all of the edits that this board had recommended, and I trust that we'll be able to review those fairly quickly.
I would assume so.
There are a couple of couple of purchases that were done, there was, like, the slide was fixed. That'll be brought in this spring now and getting installed.
That was a donation as far as the, if I recall correctly, as far as the welding or something?
Yes,
And so we have to accept that donation.
yes.
Is that still on your list to figure out how much and whom?
We know whom, I just don't know how much.
I don't, but,
That-
yeah,
Understood.
yeah,
Yes, we'll have to get all that together.
okay. Anybody have anything else?
Energy Committee met last week. Presented something about a solar organization, but we're gonna hold off on it. The way the rates are structured right now, they just don't work, so. And we I looked at the bylaws briefly. I found a couple little flaws where they need to adjust, but next time they meet, they should be able to get those final.
Okay. I don't think we've seen them at all yet, and we haven't even seen a draft, so,
Yeah, well, what, a couple
When you
things
guys
that
are ready,
need to
yeah.
be fixed, yeah.
yeah, when you're ready, it would be nice if we could look at those with a little bit of lead time, because we haven't seen them at all. Okay. All right. Anybody else? I don't know if this is the right place for this under Selectmen Committee updates, but we probably do need to appoint somebody to, from the board to liaison with the EOP and the HMP. I doubt that every one of you are going to want or be willing to attend all the upcoming meetings that we've been promised to get the EMP and the HMP done. So I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer to interact
during
with
the
those
day,
two
though,
things.
usually.
Like I say, they usually meet during the day, don't they?
Yep.
Usually during the day.
I can't do it during the day.
I can be available for some anyway.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said it would be very difficult.
Okay.
I mean, if we know the cadence or when they're thinking of starting or any of that.
I know, I don't think we do, but
No,
it'd just be nice to say, you know, here's your point of contact from the board.
I'll just need to know, at the same time,
yeah.
need to know when.
Do like an alternate type
Yeah, I was gonna say,
situation.
I could do it. I'm available during the day. I don't necessarily want to do it, but I could do it. And if you wanna be a backup, that would be great, or, you know, periodically go just to have a fresh set of eyes. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can't get away from work, so whoever wants to volunteer for it, I'm not gonna argue with you. So. You
Like
two
I
hash
said,
it
I
out.
don't wanna do it.
Yeah, I just have to schedule it, make sure
Yeah.
that I don't have anything major going on then.
Okay. Do you wanna be lead, or you wanna be alternate?
Let's say alternate.
Okay, there you go. And we also need somebody to work on new voting machines. We have new voting machines that are supposed to come on board. We have to buy them. There was a recommendation from the prior town clerk, and we need to, I believe, purchase those by June in order to get the state match. So that would be working with the current the current town clerk, the moderator, and making sure that we have the recommendation and we know which machine we want to buy. There's basically two choices in terms of manufacturers. So does anybody want to take that on? I think that's something that would not have to be done for a significant amount of daytime activity.
I can do it.
Okay, anybody else want to?
I'd be willing to look at that.
Who wants to lead?
Salem does.
All right, Salem's the lead on that.
So I've heard.
And then, a few weeks back, we talked about traffic ordinance with Chief Moore, and there was recommendation about developing, or there was a need to probably develop some recommendations based on how do we deal with the things that are currently in place that are less than 35 miles an hour. So it would be nice if somebody also took the lead to work on that. And that's the end of my list, in case you want to, you know, pace your volunteerisms.
So what's the chief need, someone to,
Nope, it's not the chief, it's us.
Okay.
He pointed out a deficiency that we need to address. And it's not his expertise, and it's not something he needs to do. It's, he pointed out the problem, and now we need to go fix it. It is, there are speed limits in town, signs that are in town, that we have no evidence that they've ever been approved. And in order to be enforceable, some of them are gonna require speed studies, which we may or may not have the capability to do.
no, we don't have the capability to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I was trying to be kind. So, do we have any other options, townwide speed limit maybe,
I'd like to, I don't know,
Yeah.
I'd like to network a little more on that, because there isn't a town in the state that doesn't have that, and I can't believe everybody's in the wrong. I'm not sure I completely agree
Well, they're not
with-
wrong, they adopted them properly, that's all.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not completely sold on that. They do need to be adopted. Yes, they do need to be adopted by us.
Right.
Not sure this speed study needs to be all that involved to have,
Does he have a list of zones?
yeah, we had a list.
Yeah,
of
there's a
them,
list.
Yeah, he has an in-depth list. I thought we had approved them all, and I guess I was mistaken, we hadn't
No.
already, but we do have a list of them.
And is there a list of ones that were approved?
Very short,
very
there's only
short.
like
Yeah.
two. Yeah,
These are enforceable signs, the speed limit and stop signs,
Right.
basically.
Right.
yeah. So maybe the two of you can work on that?
Yeah, I'll find out information from,
Are you both doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. One of you want to
we
take
probably have a
the,
couple contacts.
be
you can
designated
check
as a
to.
lead so that we've got a belly button or set of eyes or whatever you want to call it?
Who's taking the lead?
Was that Benji?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. All right. So the next thing I have is correspondence, other business.
I have one that I sent you guys. I sent it 2 weeks in a row and had to do with the town hall rent. There's a young lady that would like to use the town hall, but in meeting with her attorney, they want to make an amendment to our rental policy, which I guess it would be up to you, but everybody else has used the same one. I don't know what to tell her. She doesn't want to use the town hall unless we're going to make these changes, so. I just think we've already had it looked at once, and I realize it's what she wants to use it for, but I told her I would just, and there's suggested here in the email that I sent you, had the red marks. And then she also further went on about, is it reasonable to limit damages, especially when, especially so where one party, town council, has significantly more bargaining power than others. I mean, we already went through this with town council, so she's asking that we change it, and I just, we've already been through it and have been reviewed, and I just, if we're not, I just, I don't want to say don't use town hall, but I'm just saying everybody else uses it, and it was already done and gone through.
Oh, in subcontracting, contracts that I've used, the employer is always the one holding the power when it comes to those things.
Right.
And when you look at it, it's like, yep, you're not supposed to do any work in the field for 10 years if you sign these things. And in that regard, they're always fairly, it's fairly hard to actually, force compliance in that if you move on to something else. And so the whole point is that, if we're satisfied with the form the way it is, there's no. I mean,
Well, we've
I get
rented to
it.
thousands of people, we've
Right.
rented to senior exercise, we rented to everybody else, and the senior exercise has insurance, there's been no issue. I'm not sure. It was a while before,
Is she using it for something that's wildly different than
No,
anybody
what
else
she
that's
wanted,
ever?
she
I
wants.
don't need to know, is
Yeah.
it wildly different than what anybody else may have used it
No, what it is, it's called Says, "My name is Ally, I've been in communication, I received my insurance." What she has is, either it says "We're toddlers" or "We are toddlers." It's just a place where they
Right.
can go and play and get together for a play group.
Okay.
And then she said, "Before I sign the lease, I have concerns regarding the wording in the indemnification section. I've had it looked over by a lawyer and would like to change some of the wording."
Yeah, I just didn't want, I
Yeah.
didn't know. if
No,
was
it's a
playgroup.
toddler, like a play group,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as James is.
Yeah, town council's reviewed it, it works for everybody else, so we don't wanna start it changing now, because then 45 other people are gonna come and want it
Yeah.
changed.
I
Yeah,
want
everybody's got
this
different-
changed, and I want that changed.
Right.
Yeah,
and
everybody's got different
modify
opinions.
this and.
Yeah,
I want-
that's fine.
Okay.
I'm on board with that. And then I just had one other thing, and I'm gonna, Thursday night, the Ethics Committee met, and the Ethics Committee has asked me to destroy the entire draft of the January 16th, 2025 minutes. I have a hard time destroying anything. The word "destroy" at 5 minutes and 35 seconds into it, and then 6 minutes and 13 seconds, they asked me to delete the email. And if you look at RSA 33A, which is the disposition of records, Section 81 talks about minutes of boards and committees are permanently kept. So,
I think, that,
and
not-
the
not dis-
words are in the minutes
Yeah.
deleted as well,
Yeah.
and
I think what they were
just-
trying to do is make sure that draft that got published, and now they want to restrict some of that information that's in there, that the draft didn't go anywhere.
Okay,
I think that's
so,
all they're trying to
as I
achieve.
indicated that night sitting here,
Yeah.
because I was asked to leave the non-public, which is fine, I went upstairs and caught up and I modified the website, I did a whole bunch of things, and I posted a whole bunch of minutes to come downstairs to ask me to destroy it. I did not and will not destroy that. We don't destroy public records. I did unpublish it, but it is not destroyed unless this board wants me to destroy it, but I'm not gonna do that on my own because the article, 33A talks about keeping them forever. So it's unpublished, my email is not deleted, and I did not destroy. I know that was what I was asked of, but I wanted everybody to know that I did not destroy anything, I did not delete anything.
These are the draft minutes?
Yes, so the draft went up, and Janice was here, I went upstairs and I unpublished.
Okay.
So they did go out for maybe an hour, and then they came back in unpublished, but I was instructed to destroy was the word, and that's in the minutes, and I'm not, unless this board wants me to destroy, but I want to make sure that I'm not destroying anything, although I was asked.
Understood.
I'm not destroying anything, I'm not deleting anything, because that's not how it works.
All right,
I understand what the call was.
yeah, so hold tight, don't do anything.
No, I
We'll
just
get you an
want
answer.
to cover myself for the
No.
fact that I'm not destroying anything.
Understood.
That's against my nature.
Yep.
No, appreciate that.
Yeah, I thank you for letting us know. We will get back to you one way or the other and let you know what,
Yeah,
What,
I
if
just,
anything,
destroy to
different
me
needs
is
to
not
happen?
proper. That's just, I understand what probably the problem was, but destroy is not the issue.
okay. Okay. There was a correspondence from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that they're hosting an open house on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, to kick off a process to revise the 1978 Hopkinton Everett Lake Master Plan. Open house is from 5 to 7 p.m. at Slusser, S-L-U-S-S-E-R, Center. Address of 41 Houston Drive in Contoocook. And public is welcome anytime during that 2-hour window if you're interested in what goes on for long-term planning with the Hopkinton Everett Lake area, so there. I did also want to let you guys know that letter regarding the tax credit that you authorized me to send last week, I did give that to Mary Ann and asked her to mail it, so I'm assuming all that's gone. Any other correspondence?
I got a couple things that, about the ethics committee meeting. I wrote this down because I don't want to cross a line here. We had the board had asked the chairman to try to get them to modify their agenda to talk about a couple things before they went into meeting, and maybe did more harm than good. I don't think, we asked the chairman to go into non-public with him for in excess of 2 hours. I could be wrong, but I don't think we did that. And the minutes of the meeting, these are unlike minutes I've seen for any other board. They don't have a list of who's in the audience on here. What we do, planning board always has. I don't know if maybe someone wants to, if they want to get those added to the minutes or something somehow. And regarding emails, I run a business on my computers at home. I don't want to receive personal emails, emails to my personal email account for town business. I think they should all go to our town emails.
Agreed.
I don't want to get some 911 request and have my computer seized so they can search it. So I'd really just prefer to get them on the town emails. And this blind copy emails too is, it's kind of new to me. If, I don't know why we just can't be CC'd, and if you don't want someone to see it, don't send them the email.
The reason we have done the BCCs in the past is so that we don't get into a unintended dialogue, because you can't reply all to a BCC. It's just a help to make sure that we don't get
Yeah,
into
I think it,
back and forth.
I think it might raise other kinds of questions, though. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're all very clear when we BCC everybody that everybody's been BCC'd, so that you know that we're not trying to hide anything.
That is the NHMA guidance.
Yeah.
Okay, but
So regarding your personal email use, is that something that is coming up on the town registry or something? Is that,
no, not that I'm aware of. I got a town government email that the way I've had it for a couple months now because of my planning board. So that's, well, I've got it on my computer, my devices, I can see it anywhere, so.
okay?
So I would, well, if emails are coming from this board, then certainly I would feel free to step up and say, hey, just make sure you're sending it to my new Ware email address. And if it's from somebody else, I would just respond to them.
No,
and
it was from here.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you know, if, I know I sent you some, I don't know if I
No,
sent
no,
it to
yours
the wrong
yours
one.
my,
But
yeah,
the point
it
is,
was, yeah.
the point is, I think it's easy enough to just verify that we're all sending it to the correct, because that did pop up when I was in Outlook, that for some reason, both of your email addresses came up when I was putting in Bruce Fillmore. And so I had to make sure that I chose the correct one.
Yeah.
So it's easy enough to go in and verify that.
So can Umbrel see if they can take it out?
Well, I think what it was is before we went to town emails for everybody, when you went to email them, that's why you have two, because for years on the planning board, we used their personal emails.
Right.
No,
So
but
that's
can-
probably how.
Can Umbrel take it out of our
I
directory?
can certainly ask, I don't know.
Yeah, that's, that's easy enough to do, and I almost made that mistake myself.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was probably me that made the mistake then.
It wasn't pointing fingers, just saying, you know.
No, but
Yeah.
if so, I didn't realize that's what I did. I didn't even realize it was in there, so, okay.
You would have gotten it with planning board though, because you're on with Salem, so you would have had an old one probably, and it's in your system.
Yeah, so,
I don't know how you,
okay. All right. All right, so nothing else on correspondence, I'll move to hiring motions. Excuse me. Excuse me. The first hiring motion would be to hire Emma Edwards as a call force EMT, and it would be EMT basic, but with the expectation that she actually sign a reimbursement agreement for execution of her EMT basic training, and that would be 6 months or 40 calls, and that would be approximately a 4-month period in which she would get her schooling. So if anyone would like to move that at a $10 placeholder, I guess that's the going rate for her to participate as an observer while she's going through her schooling period, with a start date of April 1, 2025.
So moved.
Moved by Selectman Drury. Anyone want to second that?
Do we need to note now that she'll get a bump after her schooling if she passes, or is that not needed in this motion?
We can certainly say that, but in the past, there's been a probationary period or whatever. We haven't been
Okay, that's fine.
fully flushing all those out because it's fairly standard.
Okay.
I can do it either way.
No, I don't, I just was asking. That's all. I don't have a strong feeling about it.
Okay. Anyone like to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved by Selectman Drury, seconded by Selectman Fillmore. Any further discussion?
I guess just to be explicit, you said the words $10 placeholder, but it's $10 per hour.
$10 per hour, correct. Yes, $10 per hour.
I'll still make the motion if you need that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes or yay.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passes 5-0-0. Second one would be a hiring motion for Camden Williams as a building inspector code enforcement person, and the salary is $62,400 per year, with a start date of April 11th, 2025. Standard probationary period would apply. At the end of that probationary period, he would also have to have successfully completed his ICC certification for residential. And he would have to, before reporting to work and being formally hired, have a clear driving record report, criminal background clear, and drug screen clear. Would anyone like to move that?
I will.
Moved by Selectman Fillmore,
Second.
seconded by Selectman Drury. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say yes or yay.
Yes.
Yes. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion passes 5-0-0. Okay.
Well, my phone's been buzzing, so I guess I better go check roads.
All right, I think we're done.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I just want to quickly go over the agenda, if you
Yep.
don't mind.
Yep.
So Chief Moore wanted a non-public at 6:30, and then I did 6:45, call to order, public comment. You have a trustee training at 7. Department head committee items, Chief Moore for the cruiser, then the new appointment committee people, and then the finalize the matrix for Article 25. At the end, we're going to do a non-public to review minutes. Does that sound right?
I think so.
And then the standard administrators, things like that.
Anything we missed?
So did that or did that not include East Road Hayfield?
I just said possibly. I left it there because.
Right, that's why I
yeah.
asked, because
I didn't, because I didn't know if we might be able to address it after tomorrow night's joint together.
Yeah, if we can, we will, but
Yeah,
I
if we
I don't
can.
know.
Could be brought up, and I can
It
leave it
can be
there.
brought up anytime.
Okay.
Good night. Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn at 9:26 PM,
Second.
seconded by Selectman Bloom. All in favor, say yes or yay.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0-0. Have a good night, everyone.